First, we have a public hearing on the petition of National Grid and Verizon New England to relocate one jointly owned pole on Old Sugar Road beginning at a point approximately 1,170 feet southwest of the center line of the intersection of Sugar Road. National Grid to relocate pole 6 with anchor across the street for customer underground service.
Autumn is here to represent National Grid. Mark Case could not be here tonight, but he did see the stakes and does not have any problem provided it goes where it is staked.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to, Autumn, do you want to walk us through the plan?
So on the third page, there's a sketch. The existing pole 6 is currently feeding the barn. That service is going to remain overhead, and then we're going to remove that pole, install a new pole across the street at almost the exact location, and the customer at 643, 43 is going to go underground to this new pole. This is to prevent them from having secondary in the public right away. They won't have to cut into your roads or anything like that. And then we'll have the overhead service from the new pole 6 going to the garage.
Great. Do we have any?
With you, or we are those people at 43 and we don't have any objections.
Okay. Can you identify yourself?
Michael and Karen Heffel.
Thank you.
Hoeffla.
Does anyone have any comments?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we approve Horizon New England's request to relocate the pole.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a request from Bob Case for a sign on Hudson Road for Keys Farm subdivision.
Are the work expecting Bob for me?
Oh, we are, yes.
So we have DPW Director Joe Lynch here, who is going to discuss transfer station procedures.
He's after the budget, so some more clarity. So this, to follow along, I know we have a brief thing, amount of time tonight. So one of the most visible functions that we have is our transfer station. Almost every resident in town, for the most part, uses it at one time or another. It's also one that's very costly to operate, and it's also one that's very onerous when it comes to DEP compliance issues. So it's one that requires some attention from time to time. And this being the time of where we're faced with the conclusion, the last year of the 5-year contract for the operation, this is a good time to kind of revisit where we're at and what we might want to do. So this is a bunch of bullets of the things that I think are worth looking at. I think one thing that we might want to do is, if there's any mind at all to consider changes of operations, maybe that should be done with a committee and not just, unilaterally myself and Dawn making recommendations. We could start at the genesis of ideas, but maybe a smaller committee might, consider if we're looking to make some changes up there, what might they be. We've had some issues with compliance from two perspectives, really. One is resident use of the station, or non-resident use of the station for that matter, and those people who are using it paying their fair share through stickers or fees that we impose by regulation. We've been watching it pretty closely throughout the summer, through the fall. We embarked on a public education push. We put some stuff out on Facebook, put some stuff on the town's website, kind of local community access TV. If nothing, it garnered some conversation in town, because we're getting a lot of feedback that they're starting to look at the situation. We also seem to feel with our attendance that the compliance issue has waned off a bit. We see more sticker use. There's still an issue out there, but not like it was at the beginning of summer. So I think public education on that's been pretty darn good. One thing that came out we had an ad hoc group of, Stan sat in the meeting, Dawn, Linda, Pam, myself, Chief Nelson, looking at this question, because some of the compliance issues comes down to legality, police matter. Some of it comes down to just DEP regulatory compliance, but overall it comes down to a financial one. And what we did discover is that our bylaws are very weak at best and silent in many regards with regards to disposal of material and non-compliance. And, with town meeting beginning its process towards, looking at articles, maybe this is the time we might want to consider tightening up or strengthening our bylaw with regards to solid waste issues.
Yeah, I don't even think we have one that deals with the transfer station.
That's specific to the transfer station. We have a legal disposal, and it's not much of a penalty at all.
Right.
So I think it's a time to maybe, consider that and get it in for town meeting this year, if that's what the folks, in town want.
Well, I think that's the only way that you can levy a non-criminal fine, is you have to have a bylaw and reference to do to levy that non-criminal fine. There isn't anything that we can reference back.
Right, well, I think the town has adopted the non-criminal disposition aspect of the state law, but you need to reference a bylaw in order to enforce it.
Right.
That's what both.
Pam and I have talked about that, and, if that's something that I can work on. There are a number that she found in different other towns that you can probably look almost verbatim.
So this is a selectmen issue, it's not some other committee or anything like that, commission?
We have no other commission.
There is no other commission.
No, I just wanted to make sure I asked that question, I just wasn't sure.
I think you asked a good question, Bob, as always, but
But Joe,
sorry about that. Because solid waste matters kind of hinge between Board of Health and Board of Selectmen, so
Okay.
depending on what it is specifically we dive into, it could be a Board of Health thing as well as.
well, we should at least consult with them then.
Because it's not necessarily a health issue. What it is, it's we have to have a mechanism to be able to levy a fine.
Yeah, but it's not a purely administrative scope either, so.
Depends on how it's written. It could be.
Yeah.
Again, what it is we need is yet to be identified. And I think that what I'm hearing from both of you folks is that, depending on where those conversations go, at the very least, it requires Board of Selectmen action in order to become a bylaw change. And it may also include some secondary support from the Board of Health.
So Joe, would you please walk the selectmen through the relatively minor signage and procedural changes we've made, and then thoughts for going
Sure,
forward?
so we've cleaned up the signage, so it's far more clear. We've worked with the Boy Scouts to establish a pretty good protocol, and they're a volunteer organization, so they're as dependent on success by who volunteers on any given weekend as the next. So, but we worked with them, and that seems to have quieted down a lot. The signage was pretty good. We still have some more work, you'll read later on, for some signage to come into compliance, and that's with regard to the waistband item. We have to put, we have the waistband signs on site in various locations. They also need to be on both compactors, so we get 2 more signs. But we put clearer signage up for the dumpsters. I wanted the flow of traffic, in and out of that site. You're gonna see one recommendation at the end that I'm only offering out there for discussion, and I think there's an opportunity here to improve compliance, improve service, and be cost neutral. And one of those, it's a sweeping change as far as Bolton is concerned. It might be to take some of those off-peak hours, like Wednesdays, from 4 o'clock to 7, when very few people use the station, but take those 6 man hours and free them up and put an extra man out there on Saturday when you really need them. And if you look at the traffic counts that we see, Wednesday night to be open for that additional 3 hours is serving about 10 vehicles, most of whom come in that last half hour
Yeah.
before it closes.
I know that we had some very preliminary conversation about that a year or 2 ago.
That's a sweeping change, I'm just saying, this is for
And
discussion.
I think that's a good idea, to your point. I mean, there are not many people who use it, and to shift that manpower to, say, Saturday or something. where-
So it does a couple of things, Stan. It frees up the 2 folks that additional time where they could actually be doing public works function,
Right.
on the ground, which is important. And it also puts an extra person up there on Saturday when the pressures are the greatest,
Yep.
when it comes to chasing fees and chasing stickers and,
Yeah.
and really providing service to those folks who need it with assistance loading bulky items off. Basically, it's a 50% increase in manpower for that Saturday.
Yeah.
It's worth looking at.
One thing to consider, and I don't know if this is a concern or not, but in the summertime, a lot of Bolton leaves for long weekends, and they use Wednesdays to do their trash disposal, so I don't know if Wednesday evenings in the summertime would be a
I
problem.
was gonna bring that up. I don't use Wednesdays often, but when I do, it's because
You're going away.
I'm either going away or I went away, and I can't wait another 3 or 4 days to get that trash out of my garage.
And I'll be honest with you, when I was evaluating traffic flows, it was in fact this past fall, so it was when people had returned from their regular
Okay.
I
summer
mean, yeah, you
routines.
could do something, say from June 1st to.
Yeah,
the end of-
maybe
till
it's a
school starts.
seasonal opening or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I'm putting it out there as, we're trying to look
Yep,
beyond, the realm that's out there now and what's possible. It may not work, but I think it's worth looking at.
It's open 3 days now, though,
It is, and it would still be,
so.
Or just goes earlier on Wednesday.
just goes over earlier on Wednesday.
Well, or open.
Well,
later on Wednesday.
yeah, I mean,
Or open later.
Friday, it closes at 4 or 3.
4.
4 on Fridays.
So, I mean, I might look at Friday, because it's nice to have one late, after work time during the week. Something about that, but the
What
other
I'm
is,
saying, I guess what I'm really trying to paint here is that there's a possibility of having a pretty good outcome.
Yeah,
We need to look at it further.
Wednesday's hours should be shortened, although we can't decide tonight how that should be.
And I'm not asking you that, I'm
Right.
just asking you to look at some of the issues and keep in mind that that's a possibility where that might address some of the things we've been talking about. We have a couple of administrative things we need to do with DEP, they're kind of minor. Actually, one's major. We have an outright prohibition to accept outside trash, so there's a resident issue, which I was driven by.
Outside what?
Outside solid waste, trash and
Okay.
recycling from other
Okay.
communities. Folks bringing them from other towns. I was driven by the financial impact of it and exclusively, and dived into the permits. Holy cow, we're prohibited from taking it, period.
Yeah.
So that kind of heightens the importance of the residential compliance issue. The second piece of it is that it's minor, but we're obligated to do biannual third-party inspections up there, and that was written under the old regulations. We can relax that by half. We'll do just once-a-year inspections and be satisfied that way. So those are just administrative paperwork things that I'll get done this winter.
Okay.
so the other issue is, China is no longer taking trash, and we're gonna be getting less money, is that on here
So
anywhere?
it's well, I didn't get into the green China
Mhm.
syndrome, not to quite a 1970s movie pun, but it's a known fact that recycling has never been free. It's been an ecologically conscious thing to do to save the landfill and save, protect the environment. Those are all good things. In many instances, recycling is more costly than disposing of it, trash in a landfill. But because we've committed as a society, we've committed to diverting stuff that doesn't belong in landfills. So when the markets were good, and not too long ago that was the case, 5-6 years ago, Bolton and most communities were making pretty good money. We were very careful to not take the bait, maybe by accident, maybe we just weren't interested, but we never converted to single stream recycling, where for convenience, a lot of communities who are picking it up curbside have had your trash and everything else goes in the same container, whether it's paper, glass, cans, or plastics, or whatever. It all goes in a single stream recycled container, off it goes. Because of that, the market has driven the price for those commodities way, way down. We've never gone that way. We've always kept them in separate bins. We accept them in bulk up top at the transfer station. So our product is already cleaner than most, but still across the entire globe, the demand on recycled product, most of which was going to China in the past 3 years, is no longer going there. China has just closed the door. part of it is a green initiative that China is committed to being cleaner and greener, and in the United States, commingled single-stream recycling is not that, so they're not taking it anymore. The other part of it is, trade tariffs and just pure economics, and what were the most lucrative markets are gone. A speculative accumulation of plastics, paper, and metal are rampant in this country, meaning that we're collecting it and we have no markets for it. So the rebates that we've been enjoying, the monies we've gotten back through the recycling commodities, month to month, are all but vanished.
Okay. Okay.
It's a pretty considerable hit too. It's about $8,000 to $9,000 a year. In Boulder, that's a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really tonight it was just an educational update for the selectmen, not looking for any action, and also to get some material in front of you to start thinking about next steps for our next conversation, which we will do a follow-up on this probably in January.
Okay, that sounds good.
It's an easy read, it's all bullets. It gets into more detail what I just described, but, it gives you maybe some ammunition to question, the future. Yeah.
But a bylaw, if we were gonna do a bylaw, when would that have to be ready?
It would have to be ready for February.
March?
February, yeah, because we need to have public hearing on it and so forth.
Oh, okay,
So it's not just having it ready for the warrant, it's the public hearing in advance too.
okay.
See, what's the tradition, or what's the requirement in town? Is the planning board the only person who conducts public hearings or the full bylaw changes, or is it the board of
It
selectmen?
normally would be the planning board. Mhm.
So there's another part of
But
it.
that's not a zoning.
It's not a zoning, it is a bylaw. I mean,
It's not a zoning
As an
bylaw.
administrative bylaw, I mean, the board of selectmen can do
Okay, you
it.
can conduct that hearing.
Yeah.
So if we could see what Pam found from another
Sure.
shop.
Pam provided some links to me, I'll
Okay.
get that printed out. I think as a first draft, I think we can have something that's fairly straightforward, because what we really want to
Pretty
do,
quickly.
first cut, is be able to get the non-criminal fines in.
Mhm.
That's what you really want.
Right, but we're not looking at anything as, as sweeping as, we're not proposing stickers for cars, something, a real high impact change like that. It's really bylaw, procedures, that type of thing.
When I drafted my budget this year, I didn't even consider any changes to the sticker or placard or anything like that. That's a discussion for perhaps a future fiscal year, if ever.
We want to see what impact we can have doing what we're doing first before we go to that direction.
And then you share this with the Board of Health and see if they have any
Yeah,
ideas.
we will do that.
Great.
On our calendar, February 6th is the last day to hold any hearings, so.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's good.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
You too.
So we can,
Cases here now.
yeah, so we have Bob Case here for a request for a sign on Hudson Road for the Peace Farm subdivision. Bob, you wanna come on down and walk us through the sign?
So, a couple of these for you guys.
So this is a temporary real estate sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna go on, right on Hudson Road,
Mhm.
right in front of the house that existed there.
The old house, yeah.
Probably, 15, 20 feet off the road.
Mhm.
There's 2 4x4s up there. It's a 4x4 sign.
Okay. So it's two-sided, or it's just, it's,
It's two-sided.
okay. So it's gonna be perpendicular to the road?
Mhm.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? Don't quote me on this, it might be one-sided, but I'm not sure if, I can't remember the angle. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's facing the front, so it,
Okay.
I think it was up, it was facing outward, so
So I think-
it wasn't perpendicular.
yeah,
it was-
I think it is one-sided.
Yeah, it was more parallel.
Okay.
That's fine. Is Mike okay with this?
As far as I know, I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
Has he looked at it?
And has he looked at it?
Do we know if he's looked at
Did
it?
you
Mike?
talk to Mike about it?
Yeah, he's the
Didn't
one,
Mike
he
send
called
you?
me actually, so he did definitely look at it.
So the
Yeah,
sign, the
he's the one who
sign's
said take it
already
down.
up?
Well,
We took it down.
Okay.
I can double check
Yeah, I
with
don't-
him. You can make it contingent on
Mhm.
Well, he
Mike's
called me.
approval. That's what I thought,
Yeah,
but,
he did.
yeah.
I'll verify with him Monday morning, but I believe he is.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure he saw it. All right, I'll make a motion that we will approve the sign requested for Keys Farm subdivision, contingent on just getting the double checking the okay from Don from Mike's Avenue.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks for the pictures.
Do you want to keep all the sketches, or?
Yes,
We'll keep
please,
it
I'd
for
like
the
to keep
minutes,
it in the
yeah.
file.
All right. You want to keep that one as well?
Yeah, I'll keep that.
All right.
Maybe the,
Thank you all.
Thank you very
we
much.
should have a little small one, no? Okay.
Now we have the town administrator report.
All right, first of all, update on Minuteman.
Dad sends me on the easy ones.
The building is 99.9% closed for the winter now, so we're almost there, almost buttoned up,
That
and we're,
means, sorry to interrupt, but that means glass or tarps or?
No, glass.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow, that's great.
internal work is moving along pretty well. Still no scheduling issues that we're concerned about right now, or timing issues. There was an 8th grade, just parenthetically, there was an 8th grade open house there. 600 attendees, including over 260 students. And over 160 students actually toured the new building. So there seems to be very high interest in,
Good.
for an incoming freshman class to attend there. So that's all goodness. And as I've said before, we're still on schedule as of right now to open September 2019.
Great.
And things are really moving forward. Update on the portico project. As you can see with the scaffolding and all, work has begun. We've got 2 minor change orders that we're going to be dealing with. One is to, once they got in the, some of the interior there, they discovered excessive quantities of bat droppings. So we're going to have to deal with that. That was an unanticipated circumstance. And also in one layer of black tar on the roof membrane, the second layer of black tar, there was some trace of asbestos. Not a high concentration at all, but it's there. And rather than just removing the area that's disturbed, while we're in there, we should just get rid of all of it. So we're going to get rid of all of it.
Okay.
Not a high price item. I started to vibrate when I heard asbestos, but it's not.
Okay.
As change orders go, this is not a killer. It's not really a killer. So, but I did want to get that out there. And then the other thing I have is, as you know, I'm extremely active up at Devon's, and one of the boards I serve on is the administration board, and currently the chair. So we're recalibrating all the designees, because there is so much going on that some people don't have alternates for some committees, and we just finally have a working finance committee together too. So I was designated right at the beginning to be our representative there, but for completeness, what I would like is to have the board vote for the administrative board, for me to be the primary and soon-to-be Chief Lejeune to be the backup, and for the operations committee, Chief Lejeune to be the primary and Chief Nelson to be the secondary, And for the Finance Committee, our town accountant, Nacho Rogers, is already serving as the primary, and then Kristen, our town treasurer, would be the backup. So I would just need a vote from the board and have that reflected in the minutes.
So this is all for the call center?
Yes.
Okay, great.
No,
Sounds good.
I'll move that. So
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Thank you. And then the other thing, just as long as I'm on my update, a week from tomorrow, the 14th, is the December coffee with the town administrator.
Yay!
So a holiday highlight for all, so
Do we need a police detail?
we haven't up to this point. We've been able to manage the traffic and they,
Will you be wearing your red costume and
Yeah,
the
do you
white
need
hair?
help?
I've worn the white beard before, this is, so nobody knows I'm there. The red costume, I never leave the house in, so
So you'll be at the Bolton Beam?
I will be at the Bolton Beam, 8:30 to 9:30 on the 14th. And that's all I have on
All
this.
the Channel 5.
Great, thank you, Don. So we have Board of Selectmen business. Are there any public service announcements?
Not for me tonight.
Nope.
Then we have a review and execute the renewal liquor licenses.
You have them all, and you can do it as one consent agenda item without having to vote them individually.
So we have the Bolton Bean, we have Bolton Country Cupboard, we have Dagnos, Fotini's Restaurant and Bar, Great Brook Farms, which is Slater's, and International Neshoba Valley Spirits, which is the winery, and a couple of those for the winery. Twin Springs Holdings, that's the golf course.
That's the last one.
I move that we execute all the liquor license renewals.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Great.
So this is the document that needs to be signed just down here by all three of you that you approve the licenses, and then the next meeting I'll actually have the licenses for signature.
Okay.
Then we have approved bills, payroll, warrants, W19-11 and W19-11A.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? I am behind on minutes. I don't know if they're... You have any, Linda?
No, I
Okay,
do not.
I'll get reading, sorry about that. And now we're going to go into executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A, Section 21A, 2, to discuss strategy with respect to contract negotiations with non-union personnel. The board will reconvene to open session.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
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 Yes. Keep yes.
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 It's a...
Sikansky?
Aye. Quick and efficient, you are.
Yes, we are.
So we just voted to,
In executive, now you'll seek a motion for an open session to,
All right,
To
I'll
approve the
make a
contract.
motion that the Board of Selectmen execute the contract between the town of Bolton and Jeff Legendre for the position of fire chief.
Second?
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Great, congratulations, Mr. Legendre. Are we signing this one in the packet?
all, no, the three that Linda has, the new and improved.
Is one available for the press?
Not at the moment.
Not at the
but
moment,
We will get, once we scan this, once we scan that, we will email it to both of you.
Thank you.
Actually, Linda will email it to both of you.
Okay, can you just say like how many years it is? Is it
It's from now until June 30th, 2021. So it'll be about 2.5 years. Because it can't run longer than 3 years, and we like it to end on the fiscal year. At least I like it to end on the fiscal year.
When's your first one?
We have 3 contracted employees, and all the contracts end on June 30th.
Aren't you so excited?
I'm just seeking content.
You don't care what it is, you just like content. Give me anything, give me it, right?
Like,
I need content.
You don't get paid by the
Joe's-
inch, right? You get paid by your hour.
I get paid by the meeting.
Oh.
You were looking for Joe's.
Joe's handout, can I?
Oh, sure. I can give you mine.
Okay, thank you.
I'll take this. If you scan it,
That's
there you
3
I will
pages.
scan it
that'd be-
and send it to
that'd be
you.
good.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll take a scan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so if the contract, all the copies of the
I don't
contract
know
are
what
signed,
it's-
then
Are they all here now?
All 3.
you need to make the journey back into executive session.
Okay, we're gonna go back into executive session pursuant to MGLC 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, AFS CME Council 93, Local 1703 DPW Unit. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the Board of Selectmen, and the chair so declares, the board will not reconvene to open session. We have a motion.
I'll second that.
You need the motion.
Oh, sorry. That's right.
I move to go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sikansky?
Aye.
Keith?
Yes.
Wasaki?
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank